All right. Earlier this week, I said something that made some of you uncomfortable about what happens when you deputize ICE like a domestic army and send them into communities to provoke confrontations, which is what they're doing. And some people twisted the things I said into me saying protesters are violent, which is not what I said and not what I believe. I'm talking about my segment earlier this week where I said the way this is all shaking out, ICE agents are going to end up getting killed. So let me explain further here. Most protesters are, of course, peaceful. Most protesters aren't even protesters. I mean, I think it's important to say Alex Preddy wasn't even really a protester. He was just there observing and then tried to come to the defense of a woman who was pepper sprayed, but it wasn't even really part of a protest. But even if it were, and there are protests, the protesters are peaceful. And most people filming ICE are peaceful. And most people confronting federal agents are unarmed, and they're trying to document what they see as abuses. And even if they were armed, they might be legally armed, like was Alex Preddy. The problem here is not protesters. The problem is scale and escalation created deliberately from the top down. So far, it has been civilians who keep ending up dead, including Alex Preddy and Renee Good, and people who have died in ICE custody as well, which we shouldn't forget. We have videos of people being shoved and beaten and shot and then smeared as violent after the fact. And this is documented rather than hypothetical. We know it's happening because we have it on video. But the uncomfortable truth is that you can't build a system of constant physical confrontation and pretend that the violence is only going to go in one direction forever. That's the point that I'm making. Humans don't work that way. Probability doesn't work that way. What people mean when they talk about stochastic outcomes, where there's no central order, no one's saying go shoot an ICE agent. A system that creates a huge number of confrontations statistically predicts someone will snap, and that doesn't require a plan, a leader, an organized movement, or so-called protesters that plan to be violent. Now, some of you might be saying, oh, stochastic, you've talked about that before. Stochastic terrorism. Stochastic terrorism is when leaders normalize violence and dehumanization in the abstract, and then a random actor takes it literally and goes out and attacks someone. What we are seeing here is even broader than that. This is stochastic escalation. Flooding cities with armed agents, shoving people, spraying people, threatening people for speech. That creates a paramilitary theater, and it makes violent incidents more likely. It's not a moral claim about what should happen. I'm against all of the violence. It's a descriptive claim about what tends to happen in real societies. Critics want to pretend I am saying protesters are wanting to be violent or will become violent. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that federal policy that deliberately creates physical conflict as a governance strategy is going to lead to unpredictable outcomes where the violence will go both ways. Think about an escalation loop where the administration sends agents everywhere. People protest, agents escalate, someone gets hurt, anger grows, so there's more protests, so more agents are sent, someone fires a gun, and the government says that's terrorism, we're going to crack down even harder and send more people. That is how democracies spiral into security states, through a feedback loop of fear, violence, and repression. And political theorists have warned about this for a very long time. Hobbes argued that chaos justified authoritarian power. And modern authoritarians learning to manufacture chaos for political gain is only going to feed that loop. Order through fear is one of the oldest tricks in politics, and it is very effective. If an ICE agent is killed, Trump does not lose politically. He wins because he gets an emergency. He gets a propaganda moment. He gets a justification to send even more troops and do more speech restriction and centralize power even more. This is why chaos is politically useful to authoritarians, because it lets them present repression as bringing stability. Things are so chaotic, I'm going to bring you stability by repressing speech, by repressing rights. This is why I said escalation is the policy and not just an accident, because you can't separate what happens in the streets from the incentives at the top. We are already seeing agents telling people they will be punished for speech. We had the clip on Wednesday. If you raise your voice, I will erase your voice. That's what a Border Patrol agent said to someone. That should alarm anyone who cares about basic constitutional rights. Federal agents threatening punishment for speech is not law enforcement. It's intimidation and it is authoritarianism. So when I say this isn't going to end well and it's an ICE agent is going to get killed, I mean it literally. I'm not being rhetorical. This will not end well for protesters. This will not end well for immigrants. This will not end well for civilians caught in the middle. And it probably is going to lead to some ICE agents being thrown into these confrontations and ending up on the wrong side of it, statistically, because of the chaos that they are generating. This is what happens when a government chooses confrontation as governments instead of, hey, let's de-escalate. Let's have democratic accountability. Let's actually do what we said, which is we're just going after violent people who are here undocumented, who have committed other crimes, not people just working and parents and this. This is how security states are built. You manufacture an emergency, and then you use the reaction to it to manufacture another one and another one. Violence is wrong against civilians, against ICE agents, against anybody. Escalation makes violence more likely. Pretending otherwise is fantasy. So this has to stop. This is how systems break. This is how ordinary people get crushed in the middle. But we also have to be aware about the predictable and expected consequences of such a policy being escalated and carrying out in an increasingly widespread and out of controlled way. Appreciate you watching. Stick around for this next video and don't forget to hit subscribe so you actually see our uploads. You can also catch the full podcast on Spotify and Apple Podcasts.